Hello, dear human. This is Dr. Ira. This is Dr. Norelyn. She's going to share about herself in a moment. I am licensed clinical psychologist in Israel, and I like to call myself a modern witch. I have a retreat center here in Forest in California. I work with women, men, and couples. I really like to help people to regulate their nervous system. I do it online as well as in my retreat center. If you need my help, you can find me on Encounterland.com. And Dr. Norelyn is going to speak about herself.
Yes, thank you. I am a certified sex coach and a sexological body worker, and I have my own private practice where I see clients online. I also weave in some plant medicine as well and focus on intimacy with self and also with partner or partners in my private practice. And I am local to Dr. Ira, so I have held a retreat at her space Encounterland, and we are looking towards holding some more this year. So,
We have 3 during the fall women retreats. If you're curious, please reach out or comment. You can just also go to the website. And we are going to have one for the February 14th, Valentine's Day for couples.
yes, yes. And yeah, you can find, I didn't say my website. Yeah, you can find me at drnorelyn.com. So we'll both be posting about these events on our websites. And yeah, what are we chatting about today?
Today we are talking about a very sensitive topic that I think that is very due to bring up, which is toxic femininity. And before we even get to it, I want you to take a deep breath and bring lots of love and gentleness and kindness to yourself. I like in those moments to place one palm on my chest center or on the solar plexus center and the other one on my belly. Reflecting, taking a moment to remember that especially when we talk about our problematic traits, our toxic behaviors, especially in those moments, we need a lot of self-compassion. Because on one hand, we have to be able to talk about it, to evolve, to change it. And on the other hand, to do it, we need to be able to connect to love, to compassion, right? Not love, compassion in order not to think about it. Love and compassion in order to empower myself to be able to rise to have this conversation.
So, toxic femininity.
So the reason
This,
I
go ahead.
suggested to Dr. Norlyn, let's talk about it, because at
Yeah.
some point I realized that in the free world, right, our clients, my clients, Dr. Norlyn's clients, we are all people who live in this pretty privileged free world. And in this world, what I see is happening. There is this, within women empowerment and the feminist space, somehow there began to be this sentiment that women can do no wrong. You can do no wrong. We've suffered so much, we are still suffering, we're still having a hard time to meet with the kind of masculine that is supportive, that is empowering, with whom we can grow together. That push for masculine growth has been there strongly. And what I began to see and notice with couples and women who come to me is that somehow we lost self-responsibility. And it's very unfortunate because in the free world, you are, and I'm talking now to our women, this episode is mostly for us, you are the one who has so much choice, and in this regard, power to establish the kind of life that you want to establish, the kind of partnership that you want to establish. And if we don't rise to acknowledge it, we are going to be deeply destructive to the self, to the relationships. It's not going to do good to anyone. And I've seen this play out a lot, you know, when a woman would bring a man and we get into the conversations and we understand that, like, almost like me wanting to tell her, dude, you have so much expectations, so much. And do you notice that you can never be wrong? It's all him, him, him. If you zoom out and look at it, would you want to be in the relationship with this kind of a person? Like, if we now switch the roles and you were the guy and he was the girl, how would you feel? You would be like, man, this is really disturbing, right?
So it's really interesting. Just to start off, it sounds like we can distill, correct me if I'm missing this, but we can distill your definition of toxic femininity as this assumption of being free of responsibility. I heard that word a couple of times, responsibility. Women can do no wrong.
It's happened. Women can do no wrong, and it's happening to me. It's happening to me.
It's happening to me. Women can do no wrong, and the flip side is how is getting back this responsibility. So I want to address like this definition first, because I'm hearing what you're saying, and I found it really interesting in a little preparation for this talk, because you shared with me what you were interested in chatting about today, and I thought, well, we think about, or we hear a lot about toxic masculinity, and one would assume that if there's toxic masculinity over here, then toxic femininity would be the opposite. And that's not the case. These two words don't work like that. So I think I want listeners to first wrap their head around that. So it's not the opposite of toxic masculinity. It often exists in response to toxic masculinity, but it's not inherently the opposite. And then I was also realizing that toxic femininity is used by both parties in this side. If I split things and make it a binary for a second, and I don't want to do that most of the time, but let's make it a binary. The way a human, a human,
Human.
the way a woman would use toxic femininity is likely different from how a man would define toxic femininity, especially a man who is conservative. I know, umbrella term, but I was sensing from me taking a peek at the internet real quick, and the Barbie film was referenced, and it was saying that men will say toxic femininity is feminism gone wrong. And I thought, whoa, what does that mean? So I want to go back to what you're saying. Go ahead.
Yeah. I think we need to really bring it down to the ground.
Yeah.
So if a woman doesn't want to, she's not attracted to you, she is not intellectually excited about you when you're in this initial state of dating, that is not toxic femininity. It just, this is the beauty of the feminism, where we're at the point where the woman doesn't have to have a relationship with a man because she's financially free. So she has, you know, she's exploring, and that is actually, if people can look at it and see that from the evolutionary perspective, that creates a hub for growth, for expansion, for it's natural. It's a part of nature where, okay, now man has to be, to spread his wings, or to spread his, like the peacock, he spreads his tail and he's like, okay, now I'm going to, how, if I want to be in the relationship with this woman who I see she's smart, she's beautiful, then what do I need to raise in me in order to be attractive to her? And that's, by the way, goes both ways, right? Both ways. So sometimes I would be like, oh, I would hear people be bitter about it, or men be bitter about it. What in the context in which I talk about is when two people in good faith are coming together, they're connecting, they're enjoying, they are out of this freedom, coming together as as a couple into the partnership. And then inside the partnership, the root to me of the toxic femininity is that where you're the goddess, you're the queen, and he has to rise. So you see that that's almost like he has to rise before, a certain man might have to rise before you guys couple, right? Because what we described, and vice versa. But once you really come together and you decide, oh, I want to be with him, I want to be with her, I want to be with him. I guess my message is really mostly to women. If we can't shake off the responsibility for our choices. And if we stay present with the fact, okay, wait a second, I chose this man. I chose this man. No one forced me to marry him. Nothing of this sorts. I did have the spirit of time where I could take things as slow as I can, but he's like that, but he's like that. Again, then it comes back to you. If you see that this person is not meeting you where you want them to meet you, don't stay in this relationship. This is, again, your responsibility. This responsibility will give you power and freedom to have your time, to have an opportunity to meet someone else. But at a certain moment, we're meeting with the person, I can talk about my relationship with my husband, my guy, the person I love a lot. And still, we have arguments, we have disagreements, we have certain wounds that I can see are clashing into each other. That in itself, this is where toxicity can come into the play, where I as a woman decide that, you're not good enough. Suddenly it becomes never good enough. Suddenly it becomes, just because I have a certain need, then you have to give it to me. All this play, or suddenly if I'm frustrated and I'm angry, then it's okay for me to yell at you. But if I would imagine you doing the same thing, that is terrible and that is abusive and you're horrible. So we need to understand, and I like how you said it, it's not, one that is opposing the other. Hurtful behaviors are hurtful behaviors. Dysfunctional ideas within the coupleship are dysfunctional ideas. It doesn't matter who you are. And if you are a queen and you married to this person, I assume that you married the king, right? And if you're a queen and a king, then how would you treat your king? That somehow is getting lost. And we
So,
are going down with it.
I'm going to go out on a limb for a second that may take us on a little detour, but your use of the word king is standing out to me because I was watching this comedian who was talking about dating profiles, and he was saying, he was calling out women for, on their profile, their dating profiles, putting it in print saying they're not interested with men under 6 feet tall. Right? And the word king came up because he said, on the, I don't know when this phrase started, but shorter men, and then there's probably a range, men under maybe 5'5" or 5'7", right, is a short king. And it's like a more positive way of, you know, conquering the insecurity of being a short man, right? And so this comedian was calling these women's out saying, who do you think you are saying that you're not going to even entertain any man underneath 6 foot? That's ridiculous. What
Mm-hmm.
happens to our short kings? And like, now I'm pulling it back to toxic femininity in a way. And this, yeah, why are we reducing, some of us reducing, especially in the dating world, others to these criteria when that has nothing to do with the quality of partner this potential has, whether they're 5'7" or 6'2"?
Mm-hmm.
And why it's like the toxic side of like, I'm a goddess, I deserve this, and this, and I've put this package on, and I can request and call in and manifest this 6'2" person. When that partner might be the most toxic person for you anyways. Like, it's hilarious and dark and also confusing, um when you look at it that way. Yeah, so
Then you cannot force, right? At the same time, if you are authentically unattracted to someone who is under 6 feet, the best thing you can do to yourself is just be honest about it, right? Just be honest about it, if that's your case. Because at the end of the day, especially if you're looking for a monogamous relationship, whoever you choose, it's wise to look for someone you can see, I'm going to be excited, that human for a lifetime. This is my specialty, by the way. I didn't mention it, but my specialty is really long-term, long-term monogamous relationships. Now, of course, you know, we don't always get to it from the first attempt or second attempt, but I'm really passionate about this framework and supporting people in this framework. And in this framework, that's the thing that um, I really support people to be very picky when they are looking for a partner, right? Because it makes sense. You want to utilize the freedom that you have in order to find someone you're genuinely going to be attracted. I don't want to shame people for being attracted to this kind of a body or to that kind of a body. This is your authenticity. This is, this is just what it is, right? Maybe yeah, like for me personally, where I see toxicity is really more after people couple and they go into this process and here they are together, suddenly I so often see that there is much more acceptance of women being mean to men in a way we would not be tolerating vice versa. So, for example, when women talk badly about their partner with their girlfriends, that's terrible. That's super toxic. You're destroying your relationship. Would you want your partner? So essentially, we need to start asking ourselves, would you want your partner to do this? Would you want him to discuss your patterns and your behaviors and your, I don't know, body with your with your girlfriends? Do you want, or with his friends? Do you want him to do this? Do you want him to continuously be upset with you and to continuously be like, oh, you're not good enough. You're not good enough. That's something
yeah,
that we need
that
to look into.
yeah, that highlights like the double standard. What's okay for one half of the partnership, and it's a real easy pulse check for yourself to say, am I whatever I'm doing, would I be okay with my partner doing the same? And I want to ask you if you ever think about toxic femininity in the sense that when it causes women to, or encourages women to suppress themselves to maintain approval, safe or safety. Because I
Mhm.
originally was approaching toxic femininity from this side as well. Like I really identify with the people pleaser, the agreeable woman. And I grew up with my primary caregiver, my mother and father, and this big age difference, and my mother being this very, very agreeable
Mhm.
soul. And in all the beauty of agreeableness, there was always this um, people pleasing aspect. And it took me, and I'm still working through it and will likely be working through it forever. But that was kind of the first thing occurred to me when I saw your text. Let's talk about toxic femininity. So I'm wondering what you think of when toxic femininity um manifests itself in this, okay, rooted in patriarchal ideals that reward us by being overly nice, give, because this will
Mhm.
avoid conflict, and then we'll be praised for our agreeable nature. And that's a
Mhm.
different form of toxic femininity. And we can also
Absolutely.
apply that to other women too, right?
Mhm. Absolutely. So if I'm not taking responsibility, right? Because unfortunately patriarchy instilled deeply in the feminine that feeling that she has to be protected by a man. And even underneath it, she is extremely vulnerable. And that kind of pleasing behavior that comes from the cultures that are still alive, right? People of Iran, women of Iran are right now trying to shake it off. That that culture of you really don't have any other option that to please once you are captured, once you are put in the relationship, and there is so much social uh, backlash on even trying or thinking to decouple, then what do you have? Then this
Mm.
pleasing empath, super empath strategy. But the truth is, because me and Norlene, like we are trying to take our collective, our people, to the place of joyful, empowered sexuality, and love and connection and intimacy, and that is possible only in freedom. This is what we realize. This is only possible in freedom. But if you are put in this situation, you have to develop this persona. And I know for many women, for me too, it is such an impulse to be people's pleaser, such an impulse. But what is the backside of it? It's being frustrated. It's feeling like I'm being cheated. It's feeling like I'm being betrayed by my partner. But if my partner doesn't get the boundary, so the empowered feminine, if we now talk, maybe that's a different episode. Maybe next one, empowered feminine, the play. She's one who absolutely understands that each person, her and her partner, they're separate people, and they both are responsible for communicating their needs, for being the guardian of their needs, right? So we are moving from idea that you're a woman and you are thus this, gentle and da 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 da, and accepting and taking in and accommodating, and the masculine, and he's like that. We all understand that he's like that. No, we are all humans. We have these different sides and needs within us. And at the end of the day, we are the guardian of the self and we are the medicine of the self. I will repeat it. We are the guardian of the self and we are the medicine of the self. Once I connect to it, as you said, it might be a lifetime of working on it, but this is where I'm getting the power back to me because now, yes, I love you, of course. If we connect, we want to connect around love, not around so much need or just need, seeing in each other a medicine for the wound. but also seeing in each other that which I adore. This is why I spoke about, oh, I absolutely support people who are saying, oh, I want my partner to be above 6 feet and I want this and I want that. Yes, connect to your desires, let them drive you, let them go, but also understand that that means that you are going to be looking for someone and meeting someone who also has all those desires for their partner. They're also having those desires. This is what is going to be magnetized. But once you're together, if you think that you're not going to have any work to do and you're just going to meet this perfection where there's never going to be any frustration or any challenge, this is where I see couples coming to me and they're having a hard time because it doesn't work like that. This is only the beginning. When you find your other with whom you want to do this journey, this is only the beginning. Then you need to learn together what it means to organize around love and let love be at the center. And love means I'm saying no, I'm not going to, oh my goodness, that's right, that's coming up in sex. You probably see it too. If I'm going to try to accommodate his needs, I'm going to eventually resent him. I'm going to hate him. He's going to turn from that person who has the potential to bring me so much joy and medicine. He's going to turn to the person I resent. And again, we must connect to our responsibility. They
Yeah,
do not
and
read, even the most sensitive ones, they cannot read and they cannot, that another part from, the toxicity that, oh, he has to somehow feel me. He has to, no, I mean, yes. And, you don't always feel him. He doesn't always feel you. This is the journey that you're now going to be making. And the journey requires for you to do the work within the self, with the self, and then to communicate.
whew, yeah, resentment. Resentment is something I work closely with my clients, and oftentimes it's one half of the partnership who comes to me first, and they're in a state where the resentment is so heavy on their soul and their erotic spirit. And a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times when we uncover through sessions and through, first of all, identifying, well, they have this resentment, but it's been piling on for so long that they can't even articulate to me, a non-judgmental party, what they actually do want. So first it's like reconnecting with self, reconnecting with their erotic desires. And then we come to realize a lot of times there's assumptions that were tacked on. I don't think my partner, or I assume my partner will say no to these requests, or we've tried XYZ in the past and it went badly, or I'm afraid of being rejected if I even ask this. And when I meet my clients in their fear of, well, what's the worst case scenario? They tell you they're not interested in doing this certain sexual behavior if we're like in the weeds and talking about sex and intimacy in the bedroom. Well, sometimes they didn't even try asking. And they didn't try
Mhm.
asking because they were afraid. So it's this like loop. And then we get too far down the road in a partnership and years and years and years could go by. And then they're so down in this resentment when at its root, back to toxic femininity, they were trying to be the agreeable partner and the good girl.
Mhm.
But now they're bursting with this like, I want to be a goddess who gets everything she deserves. So how do we hold space for both of those and heal one? And that's where, um, going back to what you said, you focus on the monogamous structure, long-term relationships. I do work with clients like that. I also work with clients that are opening up and exploring different pathways towards other partnerships as well. But it takes acknowledging responsibility. Responsibility, back to the top of this conversation that you're talking about. What responsibilities were actually in their hands, in their
Right.
body, in their words that weren't communicated. And acknowledging the structures, the patriarchal structures that stole it, but like, hey, you can reclaim it, especially in the free world. Like, especially now, like, let's do it. And let's do it together, and let's create a container through session work with, that's kind of where I feel, maybe I'm speaking for myself, but you and I really, we're passionate about creating this container for clients too.
Absolutely. And I want to highlight it that reach out to Dr. Norlin, reach out to me, reach out to whoever you resonate with, and understand that it does take support, it does take time. This is why this work, is worth what it's worth, because it is going to take you on this process, and it is hard to do it on your own. We can share whatever insights we have. I know sometimes people share more specific exercises, like steps, do this and this and this. And there is always some kind of a, like, I don't really like doing this because I know that your change will be happening when you're going to be coming and doing this work with someone who can support you and who can guide you and who can lead you through this process of knowing the self. First of all, connecting to what is it that you even want? Because if you're at the point, I'm not sure what I want, how can he really give it to you? If we land into the real world of male female relationships, then man will give you what he knows to give you, what there may be challenges around each topic, whatever it is, and we can work through it. This is why I also really like to work with people together. We'll do some processes separately with each
Yeah,
person to empower them individually, and then we will come together and we will do work together so that people
same.
can learn and get the tools. How are you able to connect in a way that builds your relationship and doesn't destroy it? Because what we see in the world right now is just a reflection of how much we still need to grow as a mainstream, as a collective, in building relationships and not destroying them. So don't get pessimistic, don't get lethargic, reach out. I'm sure that Dr. Norlene and me too, I have, I have payment plans. Usually when people come to me, we're always able to work out something when when they're really understanding, okay, now it's my responsibility to make myself happy and to be in the relationship in such a way that it's fulfilling to me. And I feel that I am an active agent that is creating that which I want to experience rather than continuously being the victim of the circumstance.
Beautiful.
So in the next episode.
Yes.